Hello and welcome to today's episode of KnapChat. We were joined by Emma and Meryl Ward from Uncle Henry's and Lincolnshire Pork. They are an innovative family farming business that prioritises sustainability and the quality of their produce. They even brought back a glittery sausage from the One Show. Hope you enjoy and thanks again for joining us. Hello and welcome to KnapChat, the podcast for people who put the planet first. Today I'm delighted to welcome onto the green sofa Emma and Meryl from Uncle Henry's and Lincolnshire Pork. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
It's very much our pleasure. Would you like to explain what Uncle Henry's is and how Lincolnshire Pork fits into that?
Yeah, so Uncle Henry's is our farm shop, butchery and café. We are farmers, so it's actually Mum and I here today. So Mum and I work in our family business alongside Dad, brother Sam and my husband Henry. We're pig and arable farmers. Lincolnshire Pork Company is our pig farm. And then Uncle Henry's is the customer-facing farm shop, butchery and café.
Where people can buy your sausages.
Absolutely.
Straight from the farm. And how long's the business been going?
20 years. Well, 20 years next year, so a very big birthday coming up that we've got all sorts of plans for. And September the 16th, 2006 is definitely imprinted on my brain. It was a very major project restoring traditional Lincolnshire limestone barns. And it took about 9 months. And the only way we got to speed the builder up was putting a big sign at the end of the drive saying opening on September the 16th.
Put a rocket up there.
Yeah, he was slightly worried. That was about June time, and he said, "You don't mean that, do you?" And I said, "We absolutely mean it." And that's what we did. We opened on September the 16th, and it was meant to be a sort of soft launch, and we were surprised from day one that anybody came down the drive, but how many people came down the drive, and we've just been very grateful for the custom that we've had sort of since day one, right up until today.
And whereabouts are you located?
So we're just outside Curtin in Lindsey, off the A15. We had quite a debate before the build as to whether we went for a new build on the roadside or whether we restored the old barns, which are in the centre of the farm, about a mile off the A15. And we're very pleased we took the latter option because the farm and access to the farm has become a very big important part of our visitor experience. A big reason why people come down the drive, because they like to get out into the countryside.
You do feel like you're within the beating heart of the farm, don't you, when you're there, when you're enjoying the experience of being there. It's not just about going and buying some sausages, it's a whole kind of day experience if you want it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. We've very much developed ourselves as a destination over the last 20 years. So we've had various extensions. I think we started out with 45 seats in the cafe and now we're up to 130.
Wow.
Based on sort of 2 extensions over the 20 years. And the butchery as well. We started with 1 butcher in a very small butchery out the back. And I think it was only sort of 3 years after we opened, wasn't it, that we realised that we were massively outgrowing the space. So we've got a much bigger butchery now and a team of 5. So yeah, but as Mum said, it's about customers coming into the heart of the farm,
Yep.
into a very nice set of traditional Lincolnshire limestone barns.
They do look really rather splendid. Rather than having put up a load of new bricks, you've actually restored the old stuff, and it looks really cool when you get there.
The core of the business, though, it started off as quality food, and that is still absolutely at the core. So whether that's in the farm shop or whether it's in the cafe, I suppose where we've widened the experience is giving people more access to the countryside. Mm-hmm. So we've started with we call it behind the garden wall, and it's the old kitchen garden of Uncle Henry's that we originally restored to provide salads and veg for the farm shop, and then realised that we just couldn't keep up with demand. So we've developed it further now, and it's basically a day out for any age, maize, farm trails, jumping pillows,
pumpkins in October.
Absolutely.
It's pretty
Halloween
cool.
maize. Yeah, it's a full day out.
Just still loads of kids lost in there from the last few years, still trying to find their way out.
Yeah, we check every Thursday, so we've got a week.
Just put tags on your kids and you go there. And so, winding back 20 years, it must have been quite a leap to go from a crumbling down barn to saying, well, actually, we'll turn this into a farm shop and see where that takes us. What was in your mind when you sort of made those decisions?
Well, we were farmers. We were arable and livestock farmers as we are today, and it was several reasons really. The farm had a few ups and downs with foot and mouth and the usual weather problems, and we wanted to challenge ourselves really. We had what was basically a set of crumbling buildings, and we knew that we had to do something with them, otherwise they really were going to end up in a terrible state. So. And to be able to afford to restore them, it had to have a purpose. And we looked at all sorts of options, and probably seems slightly mad, really, because we're 15 miles north of Lincoln and we're 10 miles out of Scunthorpe. So there isn't a set of chimney pots that's close by. But I think we had a lot of faith that if you produce quality food, that people, and you're doing something different and providing a good customer service, people will come out. And as I say, from day one, that's been the case. We've had fantastic support from the local community.
And I think it helps that you're champions for the agricultural community as a whole. It's not just talking about yourselves. Actually, where you fit into the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we recognise that Lincolnshire is a great food producing county, and so really wanted to hub all of that food and drink under one roof. And we're very proud to have been part of lots of other people's growth as well, in terms of being able to stock other Lincolnshire producers, some of them that started at a similar time to us, some of them, have heritage dating back much further. But, whether that be poacher cheese, Coat Hill cheese, loads of amazing Lincolnshire breweries, chocolate makers, Alfred Enderby's smoked salmon, to name but a few.
I'm quite hungry now. Talking about it.
It's amazing to be able to have all of that Lincolnshire produce available under one roof. Yeah.
And you were talking just before we started the podcast about how you've been on the One Show and won awards and things like that. So
yeah, we had a very exciting day on the One Show. It was quite a few years ago now, but we were invited down to the BBC studios to take part in the Britain's Best Sausage competition. And yeah, we won Britain's Best Sausage with our Lincolnshire sausage, obviously. Had to take the county's speciality to represent.
Yeah,
and we won a great big sparkly Blue Peter style sausage, which you can still see in the butchery today.
I can't believe I haven't seen that. I haven't noticed it, and I've been there. I'll make a beeline for it next time. And it's what you have. You see more and more of them around now, sort of farm shops, farms that have diversified. But it was still reasonably unusual 20 years ago, wasn't it? Where you didn't necessarily, people didn't have that bravery to go, well, actually, you've got to invest a lot of money to turn what we've got into something else. Mm-hmm. More and more you're seeing that. And you've taken that on in a very particularly innovative way where everything is almost interconnected, isn't it? Because tell us about the kind of the sustainability approach, particularly to energy and
yeah, I mean, all of our business units are very integrated. So, and I think sustainability has become, a real buzzword over more recent years. But I think actually looking back to the way you've farmed, Mum, for many years, that's always been kind of the core part of the way that you've grown the business. So every business unit is interlinked. So all of the arable crops that we grow on the farm go into the pig feed, and the straw goes into the pig's bedding. And then all of the sort of outputs from the pig farm as well. So like the muck and slurry goes back onto the field to basically enhance soil health. And I suppose as the farm has grown, and the business has grown, everything remains very interlinked from a sustainability perspective. So you touched on renewable energy. About 10 years ago now, we got planning permission for 2 anaerobic digesters on the farm. And that's all about using the outputs of the straw and the slurry to create renewable energy to power and heat both the farm and also the farm shop and the customers' car charges as well.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. And the interesting thing I found about when Sam was telling me about that was that you chose to go down the route of having ADs that you would serve your farm and that only, you know, not having truckloads of stuff brought in necessarily from outside, which is kind of interesting.
The real driver for the, I suppose, our energy production was a spike in electric prices, which went back nearly 15 years ago now. And I think they went from the lows of something like 4p a unit to something like 8p a unit, which at the time I thought was completely scandalous and suggested that maybe we ought to think about actually trying to produce our own electric. And the idea grew from there. So we're now 155% self-sufficient. And it's been an incredible journey because we've looked at all types of energy production. We've got some solar panels. We have 2 wind turbines on the farm, but the real big producer and the one that's 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, is the anaerobic digestion plants. But they do take quite a lot of running. I think we very naively thought you would throw in a few raw materials at one end and it would bubble along, produce a bit of gas that would then go through this combined heat and power engine, and there you'd have it. We'd have electric and heat. But Henry, Emma's husband's tasked with running it, and he's an engineer, and it takes quite a bit of doing. It's not quite as simple as we first thought.
He's not just there shoveling stuff in all day long.
He's the third person in our marriage, we joke.
And they probably take more time. Yeah. Very good. And do you have any future plans to sort of develop on the sort of the energy sustainability side of things? Is there much more that you could do? I suppose
155% self-sufficient. We don't have all the energy in quite the right place at the right time at the moment. So we're extending our solar production, and we're looking at battery storage because we want to be able to basically retain the energy rather than export it all to the grid. And then heat is another byproduct as well. So we've now got all the farmhouses and farm cottages on a district heating system.
Oh, brilliant!
And we also dry logs that we sell in the farm shop, which has become actually quite a big seller.
Nice.
So we have about 55 acres of woodland on the farm, and we can collect up all the fallen trees, have a good chainsawing session, and then the logs end up in the log dryer, and and another item to sell in the farm shop that's literally produced on the farm.
That's brilliant, and go in and get everything that you need. It's like a mini supermarket,
Indeed.
I suppose.
Yeah.
But that's it's taking it back to how people used to shop, I suppose. You know, they go and get produce directly from the producer rather than, you know, everything being brought into, you know, one place from all around the world.
Absolutely.
Actually, people. I know that you do use, you know, local suppliers, but, you know, the core of the meat is.
Yeah, and a lot of the products that we sell in the shop, and particularly on the butchery and deli counter, are made by us. So, for example, the butchery is a very traditional butchery department. So we are breaking down whole carcasses of our own pigs and making as many pork products as we can. So whether that be Lincolnshire sausages or a whole range of different specialty sausages, but also you know, sausage rolls, Scotch eggs, pasties, anything that we can turn into a pork-related product, we do.
Is there anything that's slightly unusual that maybe people would have to, you know, stick their neck on the line a bit more to eat? You know, people are happy to eat sausage rolls and things. Is there anything kind of
some of our sausage, we do a sausage of the month every month.
Yeah.
This month's flavour is vindaloo.
Okay.
So yeah, there's some weird and wonderful.
Is that just spices added to the?
Yeah, absolutely. But we've also had a smoked cheddar and jalapeno sausage recently, which was a real customer favourite. Yeah. So basically, we take sort of like the core sausage recipe, and then we play with it and add different ingredients depending on the season, and incorporating different local suppliers' ingredients as well. Mm-hmm. So. Mr. Hooder, for example, who is based in Scunthorpe, produces lots of Indian curry paste, so we use one of his curry pastes in our argy bargy sausage, which tastes like an onion bargy.
Very nice. That's good food miles as well, isn't it? If it's just coming down the road from Scunthorpe.
Yeah.
I think that tying that into sort of sustainability in the broader sense, it's not just energy related or environmental. That kind of education piece of keeping people up to speed. You've got that amazing education facility for young people and older people to go and have learn more about pig
as
production.
we came over today, we were driving off and waving off the school bus, weren't we? And so we've had 25 visits out to the farm this year, and we've got the last few visits sort of coming up, and I think we've welcomed about 650 school children so far. So we've got a great facility with a dedicated education room, and they have access to behind the garden wall, and we have a dedicated lady called Nikki who's fantastic and leads all of our school visits, and they go on a tractor and trailer ride as well, which is always the highlight of the day.
We do get the opportunity to work with schools in terms of sort of work experience as well, and also whole classes will come out and run projects with us. Wow. And we always say if the teacher's really keen and they bring the class out, they can collect enough information in the day to keep a sort of lesson going for the rest of the term. And we've had some fantastic project work come back to us.
That's really cool. And you could then bring those kids in to work for you when you're further down the line. It's low-cost recruitment, I suppose. Getting people to understand what you do. Because I think it's very easy to not really think about where your food comes from and not to understand the process that goes through and the way that actually you do care for the animals and they're well looked after. Yes, it's they're ultimately going to be food, but when they get there, healthier animals, they make better food, don't they?
I think it's very important that you tell the story as to how food is produced and particularly how animals are raised, because we're becoming so divorced from, so few people are involved in farming or even in the sort of food supply chain, and the more opportunities we can have to actually show people what we're doing. So on the farm itself, we've actually recently rebuilt some buildings, and particularly the farrowing houses. We've got glass or viewing rooms where you can actually go and look into the rooms through glass, so it's very biosecure. But people can actually see the mums and the piglets and get a really good idea of how the farms run. Yeah. And we've had all sorts of visitors over the last couple of years since we put those facilities in. It is.
Well, I was lucky enough to have a tour around as well, and a couple of my team were wanting to take piglets back to the office with them. Get a little run outside. Maybe not yet.
The trouble is they grow quite large.
Yeah. A bit like the micro pig boom in maybe 20 years ago or something, and actually they weren't micro pigs, they were just regular pigs, and they got massive for those. Yeah. That was pretty entertaining. You could have cashed in on that. And is it? Do you sort of find yourself part of a network of farms and farmers, farming families that have diversified and sharing knowledge and things like that? Because it's competitive. You want people to come to you rather than to go somewhere else or do something else. But is that sort of the agricultural network is very strong, isn't it?
I think one of the joys of working in agriculture is that farmers tend to be very open and tend to share information very readily. And so we have our associations. There's actually a maize association.
Is that right?
So we get to go around somebody else's maize once a year and look at the good points and the bad points. Wow. And
is that different mazes across the country?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a national organisation.
There's also an annual competition. It's very competitive.
Okay.
Yeah, very competitive. I can
see in your eyes that you were very competitive. Never mind that.
Yeah, we did win that a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Yeah. What was your design when you won it?
Sunflowers.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And is it a secret as to what your design is this year?
No, we are celebrating the 80th anniversary of World War II. So the maize is in the shape of a Lancaster.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's very creative.
Yeah.
That takes some very skilled drilling.
Indeed. Yeah, we use a sort of like precision drilling technology. So basically the design is done on the computer and then uploaded to the piece of software in the tractor, which then drills the maize in the appropriate shape. So we're not having to go in like we did in the old days and cut it out with a lawnmower, which Dad did in year one, producing what looked a bit like an old Etch-a-Sketch.
Nice.
We're a bit more precise with our design now, so yeah.
That's really cool. I mean, you got the pumpkins coming, so how do you get them in the ground? Is that just, do you do patterns of those, or is that just like get them in and
Yeah,
let them
that's
grow?
that's more just rows of pumpkin plants. Have very large spacings, pumpkin plants, because each plant produces multiple pumpkins. So there's quite a bit of skill involved in drilling pumpkins. I do leave that to my brother.
He has a secret medium, doesn't he? Because the area that he was drilling, it's actually a very small amount of pumpkin seeds in terms of volume, and you have to spread them over a very large area. So you actually have to add something to the mix to make sure that you don't end up with them all being planted in the sort of first few meters. Yeah, absolutely. And it's his secret medium that he adds to the drill to. Yeah,
Top secret.
top
though.
secret.
Sauce. Oh,
Yes.
Very good. Very good. And what's your? I know that the future of the farming sector is a complicated one. It always has been, but now more than ever, it feels like it's very difficult to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've created a successful family business, but you must still always be looking to the future and to say, well, actually, how do we sustain this? How do we innovate? How do we change? And how do we plan for the future as the family expands and things like
The
that?
problem is, Alex, is we've got too many ideas.
Oh, okay.
So when you get the whole family sat around the table and there's just all the ideas thrown onto the table to start with, and then the discussion starts as to which one we're actually going to do. So that's the challenge, is out of the 20 ideas, picking the one that's actually going to be the successful one.
And reining the rest of it in.
Yeah, or
Yeah.
putting it on hold for further
Yeah.
down. I do see that every time I look at something, there's always Meryl Ward or Lincolnshire Pork or Uncle Henry's associated with it in some way, shape or form. So you're doing a huge amount to support local charities and the agricultural community, and therefore the kind of the wider community of Lincolnshire and beyond. So how do you get that balance right of sort of pushing your own agenda, but also making sure you're supporting others?
I think, to be sustainable, an enterprise has got to be financially sustainable.
Yeah.
But beyond that, you've actually got to have a good purpose for doing it as well. So you've got to have a passion for the job. And if you don't have the passion, you're not going to be successful. And the passion will drive the bits that really matter to you. So from our perspective, we want to be serving quality food. We want to be giving people a good experience. And we want the community to be involved as well. So I'm 5th generation in the area, and, we've got a bit of history and heritage there. And we've been very lucky to have been on that farm in that place for very many years, and we want to be able to share that with people.
And the 6th and the 7th generations are learning from you and picking up that
Absolutely.
enthusiasm along the way.
Yeah, and I think it's about, as Mum said, we all have lots of ideas, but it's about making sure that we're true to our core and true to our roots. And then I think the ideas kind of, naturally progress from there, really.
And do you ever sort of, you talked about your purpose and sticking to that. Are there ever any kind of ridiculous ideas where, most of the family goes, oh, no, that'll never work. We can't do that. Does that happen?
Well, I did have one the other day.
Mum and Dad tend to go off on trips and come back.
We go on
with,
busman's holidays and come back with some really good ideas, which when we get home, the rest of the family go, no, not a good idea.
But I do think
gems.
that is I'm a big advocate for areas like Lincolnshire, learning from what's going on elsewhere, not trying to do everything themselves, and bringing ideas in and people in. What you're doing can bring people to Lincolnshire, and they start off with Uncle Henry's, and then they go to lots of other places, and then they go and explore the cathedral, and they go out and go to the coast and things like that. There's a lot that can be done, and if we've got lots of businesses like yours showcasing what's here and showcasing the sort of the sustainable nature of agriculture, it's not just kind of tractors in fields and things like that. There is lots of stuff behind the scenes. Then you'll be you'd be doing a good thing for the county that other people can learn from and young people can benefit from as well. You know, you employ people, that's going to keep going, and you're going to be expanding.
Lincolnshire's a hidden gem, really. And although, you know, we are getting on the map now, there's been a lot of work done by Visit Lincolnshire and lots of organisations over the years. And I think people who've come to Lincolnshire either for a mini break or a holiday, they come back again.
Yeah, and they come and explore more.
Absolutely.
As long as they come back to Uncle Henry's, that's
That's fine.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's a good note to finish on. Thank you so much for being so open and explaining everything that you do. And I think it's just such a positive. You're a force for good. I think, you know, maybe I'm a bit biased because I like going to your place and eating your food and things like that and taking my kids there. But there is, you know, if people can learn from that kind of broad-minded openness to let's try this, let's try that, I think, you know, the whole area is onto a good thing. So thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.